Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're diving into a really groundbreaking engineering submission to the Open Compute Project, or OCP. And this one completely flips the script on one of the biggest tech panics going around right now, AI's absolutely massive, insatiable appetite for power. Now, if you've been glancing at the headlines lately, you've probably seen all those warnings about AI breaking our power grids. But what if the biggest threat to our energy infrastructure is actually the secret to saving it?
To really get why this matters, we kind of have to look at the numbers. Modern AI data centers are rapidly exploding in size. We aren't just talking about tens of megawatts anymore. These facilities are scaling up into gigawatt-scale campuses. To put that into perspective, a single gigawatt is roughly the generation capacity of a massive nuclear reactor. Or, for the sci-fi fans out there, just shy of the 1.21 gigawatts you'd need to send a DeLorean back to 1955. So when you plug something that phenomenally massive into the electrical grid, it creates a terrifying scaling problem for grid operators who are out there trying to balance supply and demand every single second of the day.
Section 1. The AI power problem.
Traditionally, data centers operate as what grid operators call a static load. Picture a massive, gigawatt-sized light switch that's just permanently flipped to the on position. That is exactly how grids see AI clusters right now. They're these fixed, non-interruptible drains on the system. They constantly demand peak power, 24/7, completely regardless of the grid's stress level or how much electricity is actually available. And well, that's exactly why you're hearing all these warnings about local power grids facing blackouts. Our grids simply weren't designed to handle huge, totally inflexible blocks of demand appearing seemingly overnight.
Moving on to Section 2. Fragile grids need flexibility.
Right now, our power systems are facing an unprecedented level of volatility. We're rapidly integrating a ton of intermittent renewable energy, think wind and solar, while simultaneously dealing with serious transmission congestion and completely unpredictable extreme weather events. Because of that inherent fragility, grid operators desperately need fast-acting, flexible resources. Basically, they need loads that can instantly back off when the grid gets stressed. The outdated view treats AI as static and non-interruptible. But the necessary future, as this submission forcefully argues, requires AI to act as a grid-responsive flexible load. It literally has to bend so the grid doesn't break.
Section 3. A software-defined solution.
Okay, so here is the ultimate plot twist. Making AI flexible doesn't actually require waiting years for some massive breakthrough in hardware. It's an incredibly elegant software-defined solution. Researchers from Bentaus, Supermicro, and NVIDIA actually proved that by layering energy orchestration software over existing, open OCP-aligned management interfaces, specifically DCIM or Data Center Infrastructure Management Standards, they could control power directly. We're talking about using the exact same server racks being deployed right this second, just managed in a vastly smarter way.
Let's look at how this deterministic, closed-loop control flow works. The grid sends a dispatch signal, essentially saying, hey, we're stressed, we need power back right now. That signal hits the energy orchestration control plane. Now, think of this control plane not as a crude on-off switch, but as a highly responsive, highly intelligent dimmer switch that talks directly with the GPU hardware. It allows the facility to gracefully dial down its power consumption exactly to the level the grid requires, all without completely shutting off the computers.
Section 4. Inside the control loop.
The engineering behind this is beautifully broken down into a really simple four-step recipe. First up is grid signal ingestion, where the system receives a curtailment signal directly from the grid operator. Second is orchestration and constraints. Here, the software processes that signal against real-time telemetry, making absolutely sure that any adjustment won't break the servers or overheat the room. Third, we have the real-time GPU power mod. This is where the new lower power targets are actually applied to the hardware. And finally, telemetry verification. The system confirms the power actually dropped and sends an acknowledgement right back to the grid. It's a perfectly bounded, highly safe cycle that just repeats continuously.
Section 5. Lightning-fast lab results.
To really put the success of this lab test into perspective, remember, these were Supermicro systems equipped with massive, power-hungry NVIDIA B200 GPUs, and yet the system reacted to grid signals with an average end-to-end response time of 19.13 milliseconds. For some context there, a human eye blink takes anywhere from 100 to 400 milliseconds. So literally, before you could even blink, the AI cluster received a grid distress signal, safely negotiated a strict power cap, applied it to those massive GPUs, and verified the drop. That is a breathtaking level of speed for industrial-scale machinery.
across 3 different dispatch events that commanded massive power reductions. We're talking up to 70% in test 2 and 3. The data reveals something amazing. The signal ingestion and orchestration phases took almost no time at all. It absolutely proves that the software overhead was virtually non-existent. Almost the entirety of that incredibly brief, sub-20 millisecond time was just the physical hardware actuating the power modulation. The software didn't bottleneck the process at all.
So the crucial point you should take away from this lab data is really threefold. First, they achieved repeatable sub-second responsiveness, and that is fast enough to actually compete with dedicated battery-storage systems on the grid. Second, operational continuity. Because they maintained strict thermal and electrical constraints and didn't have to shut down any nodes, data center operators get to preserve their service level agreements. That means the AI keeps running, the business keeps making money, and the grid is saved all at the exact same time. And third, it was highly repeatable across dozens of high-stress tests.
Section 6. Building a resilient grid.
You know, what makes this whole explainer so extraordinarily urgent is the timeline. Because this relies exclusively on open standards and existing hardware, we don't have to wait a decade for some new server architecture to be invented, manufactured, and deployed. The researchers estimate this massive grid resilience upgrade is deployable in just 6 to 12 months. Meaning, we can actually align the explosive, seemingly unstoppable growth of AI compute with the stark physical realities of today's power grid before things start failing. I want to share a quote straight from the submission that perfectly captures the Trojan horse twist of this entire research. It says, "High-density AI clusters can be safely transformed from passive load consumers into fast-acting grid-responsive resources." It's just incredible. AI data centers aren't just giant power drains. Because of how quickly these highly advanced GPUs can throttle up and down without crashing, high-density AI clusters can actually act almost like giant grid-scale batteries. The biggest perceived threat to the grid is, surprisingly, a hidden asset for balancing it.
And that leaves us with a truly fascinating reality to ponder. We have the sophisticated software, we have the universal open standards, and we already have the incredible hardware deployed out there in the wild. The technology absolutely exists today to turn passive AI consumers into dynamic grid saviors. The only question now is, how quickly can we scale this globally to turn the AI power crisis into the ultimate grid asset? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this profoundly changes how you view the future of global energy and computing.